everyone. Welcome to episode 1, the first official episode of Otaku Informers, an podcast just for your convenience. My name is Rashid. I am here with Matt, Felipe, and before we begin, Otaku Podcast and Otaku, we're obsessed with Japanese culture, anime, video games, geek movies, and we will be talking about geek TV and everything geek and nerdy in general. And before I introduce my co-host, let us begin officially the Japan Report.
All right.
All right. So, how are you doing, Felipe? And how's your life in Japan going? He is our first official Otaku informer on the ground. Me personally, I am the Otaku abroad in Montreal. The floor is up to you, Felipe.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Felipe. I'm from Montreal. I was originally born in Brazil. Now I've been in Japan for about 6 months. I guess something about living the ancestral dream or something. All right,
And
next.
and our second Otaku informer on the ground in Japan. We're so lucky to have him. And here's Matt.
Oh, I love that intro. My name is Matt. I've been in Japan for about 4 years. Came here basically because the stereotypical I love anime, manga, video games, so I wanted to live here one day. And there we go.
Perfect. Now, before we go further, basically, could you, one of you guys, just check that the sound is correct in the stream, that we can hear us? And this is episode 1. We're basically noobs at streaming and doing a podcast. So you will definitely see maybe some technical difficulties. Let us just make sure that the stream is working correctly, and then there will be no further interruptions.
Yes, it's fine.
Perfect. So there's sound?
Yep.
All right, beautiful. I just didn't want us to talk for 2 hours and then realize there was no sound. All right, so first, as you saw, there was the Japan Report logo because one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast with Felipe, Matt is actually one of Felipe's good friend. I did not know him before we decided to do this podcast. And one of the reasons is because Felipe is one of my oldest friends. I've known him since 2011. We used to go to Otakuton together. And the question I always ask him since he moved to Japan 6 months ago on October 2021 is, please, Felipe, tell me, how's your life in Japan going?
So far, it's been a roller coaster. I've been here on one of a few stereotypical jobs, but that's private matters. Doesn't matter. I've been here for 6 months, and the issue is the time zone. It's not that I don't want to keep in touch. It's just I'm too tired, mentally tired, physically tired. And then when I try to message people back home or even in Brazil, which is like 12 hours behind, it sucks. So the time zone is difficult, but we can make time. But scheduling it's been a work in progress, at least.
Actually, it's a good thing you say that because since the time zone made it so challenging for us to talk to each other, we couldn't really find time to just talk about nerdy stuff, otaku stuff. Basically, for us, otaku means geek and nerdy. So on this podcast, we can talk about anything geek or nerdy. And really, like now that we have a podcast, you have to come talk to me about your life in Japan and stuff like that. So this was a good way for me to even to go through this time zone hurdle. And how about you, Matt? So how are you doing first? And how's your life in Japan going?
Let's see, I'm doing pretty well. Just getting back into the swing of things after the long Golden Week holiday in Japan. So this was the first week back to work, and I already missed the holidays, but oh well.
Oh, the feels. All right.
Yeah,
All
not
right.
much you can do about it.
Actually, tell me, both of you, what did you do during the Golden Week? Since I know it's the biggest vacation week of the year in Japan.
Okay, wanna go first or?
You can go first. Sorry.
All right, so I'm living in North in Miyagi in Sendai. That's all I will say. But that's basically Morio. If you're JoJo fans, Part 4, that's the city Morio was inspired on. So I'm basically living here. And then I went down to Tokyo, stayed a few days, met some other friends from Montreal, and that's it. And then it passed too fast. And now I'm back, and now I'm sad. Not as sad as now because we're starting this awesome project here. Try something new projects every night. Like gotta push and try to create something new.
How about you, Matt? How was your Golden Week?
I I had a very hectic golden week. So the first official holiday day, I flew to the south of Japan to Fukuoka. I stayed in Fukuoka for 2 days. Then we took the bullet train and some other trains all the way down to even farther south to Miyazaki. Spent 2 days there. Then from Miyazaki, we went back up to Nagasaki. Spent 2 days there. And then we took the bullet train back to Hiroshima and spent 2 days there. And then flew back to Tokyo.
Wow.
So needless to say, my vacation time was not really relaxing. I was always on the go.
So how many Japanese prefectures did you do? You just named a lot. I couldn't even keep track.
Um,
In
so
1 week.
Fukuoka's one prefecture, Miyazaki's another, Nagasaki. I think I did 4 prefectures in that trip
Okay, so
out of 49.
yeah, wow, that's crazy. So if you had to rank the four prefectures from the one that you liked most or found most beautiful or whatever metric you want to use during that trip, what would you say?
Um, Most beautiful in terms of like nature and stuff, I would say Miyazaki. It's really like almost Hawaii. Like there's palm trees and like uh super nice climate and stuff. The one that's just like the most like Tokyo or like Yokohama, I'd say it was probably Hiroshima. Hiroshima felt pretty similar to Tokyo in that area.
I see. First, I have to ask, Hiroshima, is it, I'm assuming it's a very big prefecture, but did you go anywhere near? I know there's like a special, like, not museum, but for where the bomb was dropped, basically, or like, yeah, like, how is it? Because this is the Japan report. I don't know much about Japan. I just watch a lot of abroad in Japan video vlogs. So like I'll be asking this type of questions. So please tell me how.
So
Yeah,
yeah, Nagasaki and Hiroshima both have big peace parks. They call them the peace parks. So Nagasaki, there's a massive statue representing the bomb with a pretty big museum and just a nice park with lots of memorials and stuff like that. Hiroshima has a building that survived the bombing, but like it's just ruins now.
really.
But they've basically preserved the ruins and they've made that like a national heritage site. And then there's also another museum close to that, another nice park with more monuments and memorials. By far, those are the 2 parks that you need to see. If it's your first time going to either city, you do need to go see those areas for sure. It was my second time going to those cities. I still visited because it's been 12 years, 13 years, so I still visited just to see again. But yeah, for sure, they've done a good job at making memorials for what happened for sure. And the museums are cheap. It's only $2 to get into the museums, both of them. So it's like you have no reason not to go in and check it out.
You said there are 2 parks, right? Like what kind of stuff do
Yeah.
you see in there? Like what kind of stuff? You said you have to see them. If you could just name like a couple of examples of interesting things to see.
Um, like lots of the stuff that you want to see are like statues representing like survivors or um, like in Hiroshima there's a big monument for all the Korean people that died because of the bombing,
Really?
and there's in Nagasaki there is, what was it, the Nagasaki one, there's a big black like granite, uh, not statue, but like it's basically just a black granite pillar, and at the top of it they say this is where the bomb exploded, right here,
What?
and like as you, and then you see like where the massive crater, like they've kept the crater where the epicenter was. They've just made it look prettier, but they haven't like built over it or anything, stuff like that.
You said something I'm very curious about the Koreans, like and to honor all the Koreans that died. How come there
Yeah.
were a lot of Koreans? Were there a lot of Koreans that lived in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or in Hiroshima?
Uh, when the bomb happened, there was a lot of Koreans, but there was also a lot of Korean prisoners as well because of the
Oh,
war. So it was like half Koreans that were living there as like me and Felipe, just foreigners living in Japan, but there was also Korean prisoners due to the war. That's why there were so many Koreans
okay.
there.
Well, this is an otaku podcast. I'm just very curious, like we have to talk about war and stuff like that. So, all right, my
I mean,
next
just
que-
to segue
please.
into that, sorry, just to segue into like actual otaku related stuff. I haven't been yet, but I heard that the feeling, the overwhelming feeling and emotion you get just by standing there is overwhelming. And you probably not, watched Grave of the Fireflies,
I love it.
one of the saddest movies made by Ghibli, one of the saddest movies ever made. And it's just, it's you can't not cry on that movie.
I'm really happy actually. Thank you for doing this segue to something otaku related. So, Grave of the Fireflies, which was one of the few Ghibli movies that is not directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Oh my
Miyazaki?
God! Oh my God!
Yes.
Like I guess I'm just nervous. I'm forgetting the name of Miyazaki. It's Takahako. Is that the name? Isao. What's the name of the guy who directed Grave of the Fireflies? Because I know he also directed Ocean Waves and Whisper of the Heart, I think. Or Whisper of the Heart
Or,
yeah. Grave
or
of the,
Toru Hara.
what's his name?
Isao Takahata, yeah, you're right.
Is it, oh, you see, I may have forgotten what is his friend? Hayao Miyazaki, right? Is it
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hayao, right? Okay, I may have forgotten
Yes.
him, but I remember Takahaka, and not many people know that name, so I believe I redeemed myself there. All right, so before
That's why you are the
uh,
movie buff. Yeah.
yeah, Grave of the Fireflies for me, basically, such a sad movie. I watched it when I was really young, catching up on the Ghibli movies, and I'll never forget it. There's so many scenes in that movie that I'll never forget, even though I watched it 15 years ago. Very, very sad, but highly recommend. That it's a masterpiece. All right, so we're actually gonna switch to the main subject that I wanted to talk about in our Japan report segment, which is, if I can get it, Akihabara. So basically, I just put a picture on the screen that you can see, which is we got the very sad news that the Sega arcade is closing, has closed in Akihabara. And I remember, like, ever since I've been, I was originally born in Algeria. I arrived in Canada at 18. And when I was getting into anime in Algeria, I always dreamed of going to Akihabara. I used to follow this website called Akihabara News. And I always related Akihabara with this big Sega sign that you see on all the pictures. So now that it has closed, I have the following two questions for you two. First, well, Matt, I'm sure since you've been there for many years in Japan, have you two visited Akihabara? What were your thoughts, and what do you think is going to be the state of Akihabara post-pandemic following the closure of Sega Arcade, and I'm sure a lot of other stores that don't get talked about closed?
Well, to me,
You
the
can go,
most recent I
Felipe.
was there this Golden Week in Japan, and I passed by some of like the Sega arcade building, and then I passed other streets in Shinjuku and stuff. So all the Sega buildings they got converted into Jigo or Gigo, however you pronounce. I forgot what it stands for. Something about gaming in great option or something. It's a weird name.
Yeah.
It's a company that just took over, but they're still arcades. I don't think they might disappear anytime soon. Sega might have other plans. That's why they closed down that branch in particular. But they're still making games and other. But I guess it's hard to say why they discontinued these arcades. But in name only, it's no longer Sega. But they're still arcades. I passed by and I almost met a guy I thought it was a French YouTuber, and then I talked to him, and then he told me that he knows who I'm talking about, but it wasn't him. Small world. I met a French guy with long hair, and I thought it was this one in particular. And then I went to him, talk in French, and he's like, "Oh no, I know who it is, but it's not me." Anyway, yeah. So Sega arcades are still okay, but like speaking of pandemic, because in the middle of the pandemic, Japan does want to open up soon, right? So if it is economic related,
Yeah.
maybe they'll be salvaged because just 2 weeks ago or so, they started accepting work visas and student visas. So about 30,000 new people came here or still coming here. So that's a
Really?
lot of new tourist money, so to speak. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, they'll be fine. You know, everybody's getting vaccinated around the world and getting their third booster shots, and it should be fine. Getting back to normal slowly.
So what you're saying is, when I finally get to visit Japan for the first time in my life, I'll be able to go and check out all of the very otaku figurines and very otaku visual novels and all of the visual novel stores that are in Akihabara, and they're still there, right?
Yes, that won't be
Yeah.
going away. And about the arcade, just change names. Don't worry about that.
How about you, Matt? How was your experience going to Akihabara? And for the first time, what did you think? And what do you think is the current state?
All right. Before I say my experience the first time in Akihabara, I have a hot take. I have a hot take. Nakano Broadway is better than Akihabara. Fight me.
What?
Okay? There's this little area, there's like this building in a district of Tokyo called Nakano, where it's just bunch of little anime stores in this giant building. And it's like but it's all sorts of restaurant stores. Like there's restaurants, there's figure stores, there's card stores, there's game stores, there's a Western game store, which is like super small, and it's just like it only has like Halo and all the Western brands, and just this weird Japanese guy who's like, I love West, and I'm like, oh my god. It's
Oh,
just an amazing building full of awesome, cool stuff, and it's like a compact version of Akihabara. So to me, when I want to just go explore and look at different anime stuff, I go there instead of Akihabara. Because my first time in Akihabara, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is cool. But then I was like, there's not that much here. When you really look around, it's like, okay, there's stores, but like you can only go to so many anime statue stores or like anime good stores until you go, they all have the same thing basically.
Yeah, I agree
It's
with
like,
that.
yeah.
okay.
And so I was like,
I,
okay, instead of walking around this huge, massive area, sure, there's lots of stores and stuff, but eventually you go, okay, it's all basically the same thing. Instead of that, I'm like, okay, let me just go to Nakano to this big building. It's all compact. There's lots of stuff in there. There we go.
yeah,
But
Rashid, temper your
uh,
expectations. it's bigger. It's smaller than you think it is, but
Okay.
it's actually bigger than you think it is.
Yeah.
Because just like Matt said, it's a lot of the same, and
Yeah.
there's so many buildings of at least 3, 4 stories, and of course, like the top floors are usually the cultured stuff, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But it's a
That
lot
is
of
true.
it's a lot of even like put the culture stuff aside, it's a lot of floors. So if you want to explore every single nook and cranny, you don't have a day. You need to go there every single day to visit everywhere.
That's
And even the
amazing.
station itself is confusing. Yeah, there's
The
so
thi-
many exits and entrances, and the station is here, and then the exits go around and a bit further, and it's so confusing. I lost my way like last time, and I was walking around looking for the subway, and I was like, damn, I walked so much for nothing. And some of the
Me
cafes
too.
that are closing down, like the
okay.
Gundam cafe is no longer, and I
Yeah.
think there's
Gundam
another
Cafe
cafe
is closing.
there.
Just
Yeah.
reassure me.
So far,
Are the maid cafes
yes, go
still
ahead.
there?
Yes, there are
Yes,
still maid
they still
cafes.
Good.
recruit over there. Personally, I haven't gone to one yet in like 6 years and a few visits, but I don't want to go alone. I want to have experience with like buddies. So, all right, man. If
I
we
went.
meet, let's go. And you too, Rashid. But yeah,
Oh,
like personally, I don't
now please
want that
continue.
I
experience. I went to such maid cafes in like in Montreal and other places, and like that's fine. It's always the same. Like, hello, master. Okay, thanks. I prefer to go to themed cafes. Like I did went to the Gundam cafe. I went to cat cafe. Obviously, I went to hedgehog cafe, bunny cafe, owl
Is
cafe. Other anime themes like I don't know, was One Piece cafe, One Piece restaurant, and so on. I like those better.
is there a Type Moon cafe or any? I mean, by Type Moon, I mean Feste Night,
Yeah, I know.
Tsukihime, and all
Yes,
that.
I'm sure there is,
There
but I
is a
haven't
Type
looked
Moon
enough.
cafe. Okay, because if there is a Type Moon cafe, I'm booking my flight tomorrow.
Don't take this as a promise, but I'm saying that if you want, there might be because it's
Yeah.
Japan. Of course, there will be something. But I am not a big fan. I'm a One Piece guy. One Piece is better. But I digress. We're not talking about what's better. It's just all subjective. But there should be. Like I did come across a clamp cafe, and there's supposed to be like very soon
Just a clamp
Kingdom
cafe.
Hearts.
Nice.
Cafe. Yeah, there should be a Kingdom Hearts cafe soon, from what I heard from a friend here.
Do
yeah.
you, do you know what you said Clamp? I used to be a big fan of Clamp. I used to read the manga XXX Holic, and then which was the first ever, and I don't think I've ever seen a shared universe in a manga or anime before, where it was everybody grew up, everybody at some point watched Sakura Card Captor, and
Yes.
then when I started reading manga and everything, I read XXX Holic, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then what blew my mind, randomly picked up Tsubasa Chronicle, which is literally Sakura Card Captor, XXX Holic, mixed like with basically Tsubasa Chronicles, and they literally jump from universes to universes. And oh my god, what a fitting topic for today's show, because we're gonna talk about the multiverse of madness. So, have you seen any?
Spoiler alert.
Have you seen any other manga where, because Tsubasa Chronicle, they literally jump into like portals to go to another universe? And do you know any other manga that where they cross their different basically mangas and franchises?
There's something that does come to mind. I love Shaman King.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot the title of I need to check it up, but there is one of the earliest mangas by Haruki Take is about a little monk boy who has the power of like golden hands and stuff. And that is technically a prequel related to Shaman King because they have a character named Anna Itako the First or something, and the Anna on the Shaman King, she's like Anna the Third. So it is connected the same way. Just like my all-time favorite One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, the mangaka, his first one-shot was a manga one-shot called Monsters, who he later canonized as to be part of the universe of One Piece set about 300 years in the past. So even that technically is another shared universe. Like, but it's of course it's made by the same author, and it makes sense. It's just different like timeline. So that's like three examples, I guess, that make sense because I do recall the Sakura example. I watched. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything available back in the day, so I just watched and read a bit of Tsubasa with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and we read a bit, but I never finished. I never got into Holic. But fun fact, there is a new movie that just came out here of
No
Holic.
way. I love XXXholic, and I will definitely check it out. Me, I remember, and it's almost been 30 minutes, and we have three segments, so we're gonna close the Japan report in about 3 minutes. First, I want to point out, Matt, write down the time. It took 24 minutes for him to bring up One Piece. First.
Yeah.
Second, me, I remember when I found out that they were crossing over, you can actually see in XXXholic the chapter where the characters from Tsubasa Chronicles show up. Because when I found out that Tsubasa Chronicles crossed over, I was like, oh my god, so do you see them showing up in XXXholic? And you do, actually. So anyway, so this has been the Japan report. And actually, I do want to close it with one thing. I ordered one small thing from, not from Japan, but that's only available in Japan, and I ordered it on eBay.
Okay.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
nice.
Look,
Nice.
literally on the tag it says sold only in Japan, and
Yeah.
a little backstory about this. You know, I went to Otakuton for 7 years straight. Many of these years with Felipe, most of them actually. I think like 6 of them with Felipe. And I'm gonna put them right there. Look, they're like so cute.
They're so
So, yeah, they're adorable. And I remember when I went to Otakuton, they were selling the Mega Charizard because I'm a big Pokemon fan. They were selling the Mega Charizard Y, Pikachu cosplaying as Mega Charizard Y, at Otakuton, and it was $30. And at the time, I was a student, and I used to go to Otakuton like super broke. And now I'm no longer a student, so I have like a decent job where I can afford things. So I was like, I have, I like to not buy, like I like to buy things where, not in general, but if there was something I used to really want that I couldn't like afford because it was pretty pricey, back at Otakuton, well, it was $30 just for this one. And I actually got both. I actually got both for 45 US dollars. So, anyways,
Wow.
yeah, on eBay. And then I don't think the shipping was too expensive. And
Yeah, let's support
basically,
Amazon.
sorry.
Side tangent. Let's support eBay and not Amazon. But that's neither here nor there.
Look at how cute it
Yeah,
is.
you can take it off, right?
Look at how
Oh my
cute it
god.
is. So cute. Anyway, and I used to. So yeah, I was like, no. Oh yeah, and I was only gonna buy the Mega Charizard Y one, and I was like, hey, I used to not be able to afford now, and now I can afford both. So anyway, that's the little thing. So
It's a
that
good
is,
tangent there.
yeah, that is it for the Japan report. And now,
On to.
all right, now we're on the second segment, the Otaku Report. So in the Otaku Report, what we'll be talking about is anime, of course, TV, nerdy and geeky TV, and also, of course, nerdy and geeky movies. So this is the section where we'll talk about all of this stuff. So, first, I want to start off this segment with one simple question. I start with you, Felipe. Felipe, what you been watching?
I actually just finished Moon Knight on Disney Plus.
Please
Yes.
save that for later. Start with anime.
Yeah. Regarding about anime, I've been watching Dress Up Darling. Need to catch up on that. I put a few things on my list like the Spy Family, and I've been rewatching Yu Yu Hakusho again. I've been rewatching other shows just so I can practice more Japanese. And I've been watching on Netflix this show about children, Japanese children. just going on their first errands called Old Enough. Other animes I've been, of course, trying to catch up on One Piece, the anime, but like following the manga, and I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I just finished Evangelion for the second time after like Adult Eyes. Now I'm about to start the movies, like the old movies and then the remake movies. Yeah.
I throw it to you, Matt. What you been watching?
In terms of anime, I have not been watching much. I will be honest. I have not been watching much anime. I've been keeping up with Spy Family, and I've been slowly trying to get back into JoJo season 3. Because every time I see it on my Netflix queue, I'm like, yes, I know, I need to keep watching this, Netflix. Don't remind me. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Okay, before we jump about on what I've been watching, first, JoJo. You've never watched JoJo, and you're watching Stardust Crusader right now. Oh my God.
Yeah, I got
So
through the first 2 seasons, but now I'm almost halfway through Stardust. I'm almost halfway through
Stardust
Stardust.
Crusader, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's the hardest one to get through. It's very long, and it is there's like many episodes. Like one of my good friends, he literally there was an episode in Stardust Crusader, the one with the gorilla, made him drop the show
Yeah.
forever. He was like, I'm never watching this show again. He was like, there's a gorilla whose stand is a boat. That's it. This is it. I cannot go any more further than this.
Not to mention
Little
the
bit
other
that episode made me go like, really? I'm like, really,
not to
guys?
mention the other uncomfortable subject, but again, that's a different topic. But yeah, it did drag a bit on the second half of Stardust. But if you watch at 1.5 speed, like I do sometimes to like make, yeah. Anyway,
Before
something
we
like
we jump in and talk more about anime because we will, even though I'm the one who didn't remember Hayao Miyazaki, I watched a lot of anime this week. But me honestly, what I tell people is, look, watch season 1 and 2 of JoJo, and because we live in a current time where there's just so much content to watch, I tell people, look, you can always watch the very first few episodes of Stardust Crusader, and then the last 10, because Stardust Crusader, it is like it almost needs like a Clone Wars guide. You know what I mean? In the sense that like there's some episodes, there's someone that's gonna tell you don't watch the gorilla episode. Anyways, so if you really have a hard time, Matt, I would say if you're willing to skip some episodes, I could look up an episode guide and tell you when they get to Cairo and when they're about to finally things are about to happen with Dio and all of that. Because the thing is, Diamond Unbreakable Part 4 and then Golden Wind Part 5 for me are two of the freaking best anime seasons, like of basically two of my favorite anime seasons period. And like Golden Wind impressed me so much. Also, Diamond Unbreakable has a live action movie that we watched at Fantasia
Yeah.
together. And that live action movie was great. It was made by I forgot the name of the Japanese director. He makes a lot of famous Japanese movies. Anyways, let's jump to actually talk more about anime because you're gonna be proud of me, Felipe. First, I
yeah.
watched the first episode of Aggretsuko.
Oh,
And
catching up.
and honestly, so Aggretsuko, it is an anime on Netflix that basically, and I'm going to put a picture on the screen, and I think this picture says a lot. It's about this office girl who it's like basically shows her life working as an office girl, but she has a secret. She loves metal music, and look, I used to listen to metal music back in the day when I first got to Canada. I had my metal phase, and for me, I love this concept about the show is that the show starts off and she's sleeping, and then like her alarms rings, and she puts the snooze on, and then she's like, I'll sleep 10 more seconds. I'll count to 10, and after that I'll be a model Japanese citizen. And then she starts counting to 10, and then once she wakes, first everybody does that, and second, the fact that she says, I'll wait 10 seconds and then I'll become a model Japanese citizen, just says so much first. And then after the 10 seconds and she gets up and there's crazy metal music while she's getting ready for work. And like she's fixing up her eyelashes and there's like metal music. And I liked really also how, I like basically how it was a commentary on Japanese society and how when she gets to work, like her boss is a pig who's a sexist. So he's a sexist pig.
Yep.
And I also
Also exaggerated and is also a metaphor, like you said, the pig. It's
so
the
much.
best show.
Like I wanted to do this podcast with you two because I've been obsessed with Japanese culture since I was a teenager. I used to literally read a blog back of the guy who created JList, the website JList. He used to be a jet teacher actually back in the day when he first got there, and he has a blog where he talked about Japan. And basically, I used to follow like anyway. So I really like this anime because of it exactly scratched that itch of just seeing a funny anime about Japan society, and I really liked how you have we have this image of Japan not being self-aware that their office their like work life is like pretty extreme because like the boss like treats her like shit, but I really like how all of the coworkers are like, can't we like report him to HR? Isn't this harassment? And then they're like, and then there's this other guy that shows up. He's like, no, that won't do anything. All he's gonna just say is, oh, I'm sorry. I will promise to be better next time. But anyway, and he has like this secretary that follows him around, kissing his ass. Anyways, I thought that was pretty good. So second anime that I
Yes.
watched.
How about you can remove the
Yes. Second
that's
anime
a
that I
guide to
watched that we can all three of us talk about. Spy X Family. I watched the first two episodes of Spy X Family. And,
Okay. Okay, I
and
won't get too far then.
we don't have to get too much, but the thing is, me the last couple of years I've been very like ADD where I was like watching anime. It sounds like you have to read subtitles and everything. So I haven't been watching a lot of animes other than like Demon Slayer and like Attack on Titan and basically yeah. I've watched a couple of others that skipped my mind. So I'm happy that we're doing this podcast because it allows me to watch some current anime that you guys are watching too, so we can talk about it. So Spy X Family. So at first, the way that you described it, Felipe, made it sound lamer than it is. So well in our episode 00 that we haven't mentioned right now, you said it's about a family, whatever. Me, the way I would describe this show is like it's about a spy who's kind of like James Bond, and it's about like how there's a war between Westeria and Easteria, and how he's a spy who
Yeah.
works for Easteria, and there is a lot of action actually, because the way that you described it, I thought it was a slice of life anime where you just kind of like, oh, it's about this family, but no, the spy is really badass, and there's a lot of action.
Well, to
And
my defense,
please,
I put on my list. I didn't start actually watching. I just know the premise
Yeah, he
more
hasn't
or
started
less.
it. I could,
Yeah.
wait, so
yeah,
in our
I could tell
episode
you more.
00, you said you recommended this anime that you did not watch?
No, I didn't recommend. What I do recommend is Odd Taxi and Aggretsuko.
I
Odd
wa
Taxi and Aggretsuko is what I recommended. Spy Family is something that like, oh, I put on my list. But anyway, we
I
can
recommend
revisit.
it to my family.
I downloaded Taxi. I will not. I will watch it at the first couple of episodes next week. But I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue Spike's Family. To be honest, Aggretsuko There's just 4 seasons. It's a lot. I'll watch it once in a while, but Spy X Family, like I'll be up to date for next week. And yeah, so basically, me at the beginning, I, as I said, I haven't been watching a lot of anime the last couple of years, so I really want an anime to grab me right away, right? And this started grabbing me the second the little girl shows up. So basically,
The little girl is the best thing ever.
yes. So, and I'm not spoiling anything. This all happens in the first episode, and basically,
Now.
sorry, what?
She's the face of anime now, or the season at
Yeah,
least.
she is the face of anime. You
Well,
see her everywhere.
you guys said it's a very hot anime, popular anime in Japan right now, which is why I wanted to check it out. And honestly, it is the best. She's the best thing about the anime, and I like how he's supposed to like find a fake daughter, and like he goes to this like anyway. I'm not gonna go too much into the details of episode 1, but remember how the way you described it last week, I was like, oh, it reminds me of Yotsuba. There was a scene in episode 2. Damn you, Felipe, for not watching it because I wanted to get into the details of episode 2. So I won't get into too much details. But there is a scene
Yeah.
in episode 2.
Marvel soon, so yeah, don't worry. I'll catch up on it, hopefully.
We're gonna be done soon, and then we can jump into our marvelous informers. Basically, episode 2 at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is a little slow. I'm not really down on this. And then the little girl shows up, and she makes this face. I was like, yo, this is exactly Yotsuba. And I'm putting a picture on the screen. This one, yeah. So
Yotsuba.
basically, I love when she has these reactions because the story is that she can read minds. She's a telepath, and this spy, who's the greatest spy in Hysteria, thinks he's gotten this little girl figured out, but he doesn't know that she can read his mind. So the reason why he's so
Yeah.
impressed by her is because she can read his mind, and no one impresses him to impress him. And like when she makes this face, it literally reminded me of this. Like if you watch the stream,
Yeah.
like of the YouTuber face. I don't know if you seeing it, Felipe.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. It's enough
Alright.
anime talk, and now, as you said, Felipe, you've been watching Moon Knight, and the main content of today's episode is Moon Knight and Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, it's been a week, I guess. Spoiler alert from the get-go, because there's a lot of stuff building up the entirety of Phase 4. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Big spoiler alert. Big spoiler alert.
Spoiler
Moon
alert,
Knight
spoiler
and
alert.
Doctor Strange.
oh, by the way, I just noticed I forgot to say it at the very beginning of the show. In our thumbnail, we have the Otaku Informers YouTube channel at the top, but it's Otaku Informers with one word. We're gonna fix that for next episode. So,
Yes.
anyways, so Moon Knight. First things first. Matt, what did you think?
Moon Knight. My second favorite MCU show on Disney Plus so far. I'd say my favorite is still Loki, just because I like where it goes. Like, no spoilers for Loki either, but where Loki goes and like the stuff they do in it, I still like more than Moon Knight. But Moon Knight is such a different vibe compared to everything else MCU that it's like, okay, I can respect this. You guys tried something different. You guys went much more mature, much more introspective. Like, I really digged it, for sure. Especially up to episode 4. And then, like, 5 and 6 are still great, although 6 is the weakest in my opinion. Out of the whole season, I think the finale is the weakest. But especially episode 4, where it's mostly Steven and Mark. We're in spoilers, but Steven and Mark in their head just trying to deal with stuff. When you think, okay, what's going on? Like, what the frick? Where are they now? Like, that's That's good.
Very
How about
interesting.
you, Felipe?
Actually, before you start, Felipe, I just want to expand on something that Matt said. It's very interesting that episode 4 is your favorite because episode 5 is definitely my favorite. But it is true that episode
Is
4.
is episode the five the one in the mental hospital
No, it
mostly?
is episode
Am I
4.
mixing things
No,
up?
no, 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 you're not. You're
Okay.
not. You got it correctly. Episode 4 is when
Okay.
he wakes up and you see him in the asylum. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just found
Okay.
it interesting that was your favorite. It's definitely a great episode for me too. I did really like how the only thing about episode 4 why for me it's not as good as episode 5 is because they try and make you believe that this is happening in his head and this is not real. And I'm like, come on, we just watched 3 episodes. We know as the viewers, we saw all of that happening. You know what I mean? And this is Disney. They're not gonna be like, actually, the first 3 episodes, all of that is actually not true. If they had done that, my mind would have been blown. If they would have really, if Disney would have been like, the superhero Moon Knight doesn't exist. We lied to you. I think I would have been funny. All right, Felipe, what
Just
did
like
you?
about some of these tropes, we as viewers, we know certain things of what we watched. As soon as they were in the hospital, at first I thought, what happened? Is this a flashback maybe? Is this a flash forward to the future maybe? And then I saw certain hints to things that have been happening and the dead guard. So like, okay, I know this, what's happening. And as soon as we saw Steven coming out of the sarcophagus, and then we saw a closed sarcophagus, that is an obvious nod to the last scene of the last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nice.
as soon as the second sarcophagus didn't open, I would just, at least I knew it was like, okay, that's obviously a third personality. Which, again, looking back, even at the opening, like his face is split into three, so it's been hinted subtly from the beginning.
Can you remind me the scene with the second tomb that you just I don't
So
clearly
when he was
remember
in
this.
his mind space, he was going through doors and he found Steven at first and he opened the tomb, the sarcophagus, and Steven came out.
Oh,
Then they just opened
oh.
the other doors and we found the closed one standing up. So that was obviously
Yeah.
the last personality that we saw at the end. So I'm like,
One standing up was like shaking, and you could hear him say like "Get me out." And both
yeah.
Steven and Mark were like, "Yeah, never mind. Okay, let's go."
And from the beginning, from the open, he just splits into three faces. And like, it could just be a visual, but it's obviously a hint.
That's
then it
great.
turned out to be true.
I did not notice that, Felipe. It splits into 3 faces at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the credits and the end credits, there's one scene where like you see his face, and then it splits into 3 different versions of him.
I did not remember that. Very good catch, Felipe.
I would love to meet someone in real life that has such a disorder. Because, I don't know, I want to talk and understand how that's supposed to work, you know?
I think,
Because
yeah.
we found out, like, through the flashback that, I mean, who is the original and who created, but then because Mark is a fan of the fictional Stephen Grant that he created, but, like, how they just manifest it, like, the way they show it in, like, the show, he just closes his eye and he just switches, like, a thing, but, like, is it actually in real life? They just like turn on switch like in their head, or just like they wake
I
up
got
and are like,
something. I got something.
go ahead.
There's a great YouTube video where they interview 2 or 3 people with this disorder, and they talk to them about, okay, when was the first time you realized you had another alter? Like the proper term of saying the different personality is an alter, and I learned that from the YouTube video. But
Oh, wait, could you please
they
repeat that
talk
last
about
sentence? Matt, could
Okay.
you just
Probably
please
Freud.
repeat it? No, no, Matt, about the altar. The beginning of that sentence, I didn't
Yeah.
catch that. Please repeat that.
In the video, they said that the official term to reference the different personalities is alter.
Really?
ALTER. Yeah. Instead of saying it's like a different personality or different self, you say it's a different alter. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks, YouTube.
Alternative.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Otaku Informers, and Matt just informed us about something new that I did not know.
That interview is really good. Like, I can send a link to both of you guys afterwards. But, like, it really explains a lot about DID, that disorder, and how it's not like the person, like, no, each alter doesn't know who the knows who the original is, and, like, each alter has a specific purpose. Like, one of them will be a protector, so they show up whenever the original is scared or, like, doesn't want to do something. That protector alter comes out and deals with it instead. That's why Steven comes out whenever Mark was about to get beat up by his mom, or like whenever he had something bad that Mark just didn't want to deal with. That's why Steven pops up and goes, "Oh, hey, hello," and tried to like repress all that stuff. And like the third alter we see at the end credits, Jake, he could be like, well, I know a little bit about the comics, so that's why I knew that there was going to be a third personality, because in the comics there was always three. So when they were like, "Oh yeah, Jake's here," I'm like, "Really? In the end credits? You show him at the end credits? Oh, come
I
on."
mean, they did hint
But,
twice that Jake is the more violent one. That even though Mark was the mercenary and is may have killed here or there because of the job itself, we have been like seeing at least two scenes where Jake is the actual third one, where he just blanks out like, "Did you do this, Steven?" Like, it's been hinted, but that was an interesting.
first fight in
What's fascinating
Egypt.
to me about this disorder and goes to the show is like, I wonder how it starts, because if he's like, Mark as a child has always been watching whatever Stephen Grant shows and just subconsciously or in his mind just trying to imitate, or not, even out loud or just in his head to imitate the British accent. Where did he start watching like Spanish stuff for Jake? Because Jake, even though his name is Jake, not Javier or something, but Spanish sounding, he just speaks Spanish like hola or something. That was
Yeah,
where did that come?
that's a
Season two, I
weird.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a weird change they did for the show, where in the comics Jake is a New York taxi driver. So he had a New York accent and he drives taxis and stuff, but in the show he's Spanish for some reason. I think
Okay.
that's because the actor is from, I think he's from Guatemala or something, like he's originally Spanish. So he's probably like, "Hey, let me just do my Spanish accent instead of the New York accent." And that's my guess. My guess is he was probably like, "Just let me make this guy Spanish because, like, why not? I'm Spanish too."
You're right, Guatemala. You got it. I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
So okay,
Okay,
before I forget one thing, Felipe. So yeah, as you said, the first time that they hint at it, I think it was episode 3, where he like beats up a bunch of guys, and then Mark is like, "Steven, did you do this?" And
in he was jumping the kid, right? There were the two guys chasing him outside of
even before that,
like
I think. But maybe not, maybe it was that. But yeah. Me honestly, after that first time where he's like, "Did you do that?" at the end of that episode, basically I watched the Kevin Smith podcast, Fat Man Beyond, and they actually kind of spoiled for me that there was a third personality. But the second that he says, "Mark, did you do that?" I guessed instantly that there was a third personality. They kind of tell you, but it was a surprise that it was a third. For a second, I was like, his third personality. I just didn't expect it to be like literally another like Mark and Steven, like Jake, basically. But anyways, what's very interesting, what you just said, Matt, is that he's a taxi driver in the comics, and he's a limo driver at the end of the last episode in the post-credit scene.
Yeah.
And you said, how did he learn Spanish, Felipe? Well, since he blacks out whenever he's another personality, well, okay, I'm gonna call it alter from now on. Whenever he's an alter, maybe he just blacked out that he was learning Spanish. Yeah.
well, I'll check the video about with Matt, but that's something interesting. But like on the more bigger topics about the MCU in season 4, this season, this show does adds interesting things for the world, but to me, because again, I'm not a big comic reader, especially Marvel. I'm more of a DC guy, but I digress. So about Marvel, this adds about new gods and the pantheon of gods and their existence here and there. So it kind of ties into what Thor: Love and Thunder is going to bring about
Wait, 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 wait,
God.
wait, no, 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 wait, 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 wait. Don't talk about Thor: Love and Thunder, Felipe.
Right,
I did
right.
I did
We
not watch the
do this
trailer.
like
I don't know
no
anything
spoiler.
about it. We don't. Please don't talk about love. I just cut you off before. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
This is public information regardless of the trailer. So if
But
you
no, no,
as
no,
an
no, no, no,
informant,
no, 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 Felipe, Felipe. So basically,
yeah.
episode 0, I said Thor Ragnarok, for me, it really made me upset because you see the Hulk coming out of the big door in the Colosseum in the trailer, and when I was watching the Thor Ragnarok movie in the theater, they actually really play on the fact that no one knows who Thor is going to face in the Colosseum on Planet Hulk, basically. They don't call it Planet Hulk, but anyway. And the whole time I was in the movie theater, I was like, I know who he's going to fight in the Coliseum. It's gonna be Hulk because they freaking spoil it in the trailer. Do you know what I mean? So I promised myself I would not watch Thor: Love and Thunder trailers. So on this podcast, we're not gonna talk about trailers. So even if it's technically public, I mean, unless we all three of us watch the trailer, but I've been spoiled too many things, and I don't want to get into Multiverse of Madness right now, but God, while I was watching it in the theater, was I very angry that in the freaking trailer, I watched Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness trailer, and I promised myself at the end of that trailer, I will never watch a Disney trailer again. For real. Ever. Because I have been waiting for, spoiler alert, Multiverse of Madness. I've been waiting
Yes.
for the X-Men to show up in the Disney universe since I watched literally Avengers 1. And I remember back in the day, I was like, I really hope Disney buys Fox so that they get the rights to X-Men. Even to now, anyway, they're gonna get into the whole merger and monopolies or oligopolies. But they spoiled me the thing that I had been waiting for over 10 years in a freaking in a freaking trailer. And for me, that's unforgivable to Disney. And I cannot trust them anymore. They have lost my trust when it comes to trailers. And not only that, James Gunn himself, many years ago, before when he was promoting Guardians of the Galaxy 2, said, "Oh no, we at Disney like we want spoilers in trailers because it regenerates more sales." All right, sure, you can do that. I'm just not gonna watch your trailers. That's gonna be my choice. So basically, while I was watching Multiverse of Madness, my friend next to me had not watched the trailer because he's smart. He refused to watch the trailer, and his reaction to Xavier appearing, I wanted to have that reaction too. You know what? But I couldn't. I was robbed of that reaction because of the trailer. So no, even if it's public information, I refuse to watch Star Wars and Marvel trailers. I'm sorry. That was we're gonna have a graphic for rant, and we're gonna have a graphic for hot takes. That was my
I
rant.
agree. To build up from what Moon Knight built up, it doesn't add much to the overarching Phase 4, but Doctor Strange 4, but that trailer, there are two sides that I do agree that they should be. It does generate hype because you're still curious how they're gonna bring them in, but the other point of view is that, oh, I mean, they spoil, right? So another question is like, to make you like feel at ease is not why, is how they bring it there because it's not the main universe, so it makes sense. The actual question now is how they'll introduce in the main universe, the one we care
Mm,
about, 616, not 838. That's the main question. Because I was making a comment in a video
that's
of
true.
another YouTuber that because so far what we've seen, there's two types of variants, which is still unclear to me. So maybe you can help brainstorm. So we learned from Loki the concept of the Nexus events, right? So let's say if I wasn't doing this podcast right now, I'll be doing something else, so the timeline splits.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically twin universes. I'm the same age here, I'm the same age there. And that's exactly what have all the Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange universes variants. They're the same age, same
Let,
experiences, but thing. To my main point
we'll
here,
talk about Doctor Strange in a bit, though, Felipe. Let's just close the
Yeah, let's
subject on
close
Moon
your
Knight,
night.
please, because I just okay. you brought up some very good points though, Felipe. I really like your analysis. I'm sorry that I did the whole. When you talked about gods, I actually loved it. I'm sorry I cut you off my rant, and we will be doing rants here. And one of the reasons that I do really wanted Felipe and me to have a podcast is because he does some great rants too. So we will have a graphic for that. But because I know Matt has to go in exactly 1 hour. Just want us to have enough time. So basically, you said something about the gods. I love the scene when they talk about Alexander the Great. When he finds Alexander the Great's tomb and he finds the little statue, I was like, oh my god. Alexander the Great first, bring it back to Otaku. In Fate Zero, Alexander is freaking great. So anyway,
I knew you were gonna bring it up before you, but
whenever I bring up Fate or Game of Thrones and you bring up One Piece, we're gonna have a bingo. So
Yeah.
anyways,
I'm gonna make it so like there's a counter on the YouTube video where it's like, oh, One Piece mention one.
because I actually do have many things I want to say about Moon Knight and don't want us to go too much. So first, I actually thought about it, and now Moon Knight is my favorite Marvel show so far. It used to be Loki. When we did episode 0, I was like, it's close second to Loki, but it's the first now for me for one simple reason. Oscar Isaac is such an incredible actor, and you guys have been talking about, oh, now I want to know more about split, like DID. What does DID stands for again?
It's dissociative identity disorder.
You see, like this show, I love shows that make you think about real life and real humans, that make you smarter or that make you more knowledgeable about things that actually do have a real life impact. We're the Otaku Informers, so I do love being informed, right? Like Loki was all amazing spectacles. I love the concept of it's so incredible. But for me, I'll never forget Moon Knight. So basically, first, the way that Oscar Isaac is completely different in each of his alter is incredible acting, because you literally forget you're watching the one actor speak to himself. And even in the first episode, like his British accent, I just can't help but laugh. The way he speaks is just hilarious. So like in the first episode, he's like, an avatar? You mean the blue people? Or the anime? First, I love when he makes this inside like reference to Avatar: The Last Airbender being an anime, which is literally so cool because it's not an anime, and people always get mad whenever someone says that it's an anime,
Yeah.
because no, it's a cartoon, it's made in America. Second, I have a graphic for this. In episode 5, which is my favorite, and I'm only gonna talk about episode 5. There was only one thing I didn't like about the whole show in episode 6 before I get to episode 5, is how in episode 6, as you said, it was your least favorite, Matt. When there's like the big fight between Khonshu and the crocodile lady,
Yeah.
it literally reminded me of a Power Rangers fight. I don't know if you guys remember.
Right? It was like I'm watching Power Rangers.
oh, that's a good example. Oh my gosh,
It
good
was-
comparison.
Thank you, Felipe. You see, this is why I love Felipe. He appreciates my references, because I swear to God, I have not heard anyone else make this. It was like, I was like, how can I? It's two giant things that are fighting, and it's so slow and clunky. There's no powers. Oh, it's literally like, push,
God.
push. I'm like, you two are gods? These are the lamest things I've ever seen. This is what the whole show's been about? Summoning this thing that's like very like weak? Anyway,
They gotta save money on the flashy stuff. It's not Agatha versus Wanda.
but yeah,
I
honestly,
guess it's consistent with the other fights that you see big things. Like whenever Ant-Man gets giant, he moves really slow as well, right?
oh,
So I
good
guess
point.
if you look at it, they're being consistent. It's like the giant guys wouldn't be moving fast. They would be
maybe-
moving slower.
And maybe because they are giving their powers to their avatars, they are just
They're
basically
weaker.
all
Yeah.
shells, right? So they just grow and expand, but they still physical because everything they use is with the avatars.
You know what? I'll take your arguments, because I hope that's the case, and the Ant-Man argument is very good too. So anyway, that's just a little thing. But me, the reason why this is my number one Marvel show is really emotional, and it's really, in my opinion, because, well, first, one last hilarious thing before I get to the emotional stuff that I really loved is when Steven says to Ethan Hawke, he's like, the little haircut. He's like, oh, the little haircut, the little stash there. It's very Ned Flanders, ain't it? And and I found this picture that I'm putting on the stream, which is a side-by-side comparison of Ned Flanders and Ethan Hawke. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If you see it on the stream.
Oh my god.
So I just found
The live
Steven.
action we never, the live action we deserve.
And anyway,
Yeah.
so me right after he says in Ned Flanders comment, when Mark reveals to Steven that his mom. Okay, first, my favorite part of the episode 5, because episode 5, I know I'm really a minority. A lot of people didn't even like Moon Knight that much. There's a lot of problems, but this is why I loved episode 5. When they're opening the doors, you see this one door that I'm gonna put up on the screen right now. Yeah. So you see this picture. So basically, he is watching Mark standing up on the street. You don't know what he's staring at, and he's drinking. And he's like, "Oh, what's
Yeah.
that?" Like, "Oh no, that's nothing." And then Mark reveals to Steven that his mom is dead. Ethan Hawke confirms to Steven that his mom is dead. And then, like, Steven's like, "Oi, you having a laugh?" I'm gonna keep trying to imitate his accent. And then Ethan Hawke calls his mom. He's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm so sorry." Ethan Hawke, incredible performance too. He's like, he calls his mom, and the way when he goes to give him the phone. The reason why I prefer this over Loki is because I don't remember a single Loki performance in the whole show that comes close to the intensity of how Steven goes to pick up the phone, and while he's going to pick up the phone, you see he's accepting the fact that his mom is dead, and tears are dropping, and he goes to pick it up. He's like, "But my mom's dead," and this is why I love this, because then you go back in on that street, and you find out why. First, like, his mom is a real piece of shit, right? And then you find out why, and he's looking at his dad. It's the funeral, right? And then he turns away, and his dad comes out, and he goes up, and then Mark leaves, and he has actually Oscar Isaac's mom is Jewish, which is why one of the reasons they picked him, because Mark Spector in the comic books is a Jewish superhero. So basically, he has the kippah on his head, and he's drinking, and he walks in, and he gets on his knees, and he takes off his kippah, and he starts hitting it. Meaning, you see right there and then why it really hit me in the field. Right there and then, he's blaming God for this. He's like trying to reject his religion, and you see all of his feelings going through, and at the same time, you see Mark Spector literally looking at himself going through the worst moment of his life. One of the worst moments, because anyway, a worst moment probably seeing his brother drown. The worst, looking at himself, and Oscar Isaac is such an incredible actor. You're seeing two incredible performances at the same time. Him crying and hitting the kippah, and him watching himself do that, and the look on Mark Spector's eyes is like, he pities himself. And at the same time, he feels so sad, and he's like, imagine you're watching yourself on the worst moment of your life. And right there and then, he gets up, and he's like, and right there and then, you find out the
And
origin.
Steven takes over.
You find out why Steven exists. You find out the origin of Steven. And episode 5, which blew my mind, the first half of the episode, I was like, this is a little slow. I don't really care about Mark Spector's origin. But then it ties it all back in. And I love when a show does that. I love when a show sets up the pieces. Even though it's boring, it sets up the pieces and then it pays off. It pays it off tenfold. And this payoff is it gets up like, Mom, are you alright? Can you believe it? I'm lost again. He's like, I'm lost again. And then he starts and he said, and you're seeing you're seeing three performances at the same time. You're seeing him cry, him watching himself cry, and then him getting up and becoming another person. And for me, that is just something that is incredible because, oh, and at this moment, cherry on top. Because this scene, I'm sorry, I'll never forget it in my life. There's certain scenes that I watch, and this is why I love movies and television. I grew up watching movies, so many movies. I'm a cinephile. I've been watching every Oscar ceremony since I was 13. Like, I used to, literally, when I was in Algeria, stay up at night waiting for 3 a.m. because of the time change to watch the Oscars live, right? So, like, movies for me, they could teach you lessons, and they can also even sometimes imagine someone who lost his brother. And I follow the guy from the Schmodown, right? And he said this is the greatest episode of television, one of the because that guy has lost his brother in real life, the guy who hosts the Schmodown. And seeing Mark Spector go through all of that, he not only could he relate, but Steven tells him at this moment, Mark, all those horrible things she said to you, he's saying this to Mark Spector right after, all those horrible things your mother said to you, it wasn't your fault. And then Mark says for the first time, I shouldn't have brought him in that cave. I shouldn't have brought him in that cave. And then Steven looks at him, he's like, you were just a child. It wasn't your fault. And I don't know if any of you two have watched the movie Good Will Hunting, but the second he said that, oh, bravo. Again, if you guys watch episode 00, which we haven't talked about, every time I didn't know Matt before, and he always impresses me because not many people have watched these movies. Like, Good Will Hunting is a classic of cinema. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were literally nobodies. They wrote that movie, worked their ass off to get Robin Williams in that movie, and there's a scene in that movie that this scene is referencing to. When Robin Williams talks to Matt Damon, and Matt Damon for the first time opens up about how he used to get beaten up as a kid, and in like orphan houses. And Robin Williams, he won 2 Oscars in his life. One was for Good Morning Vietnam, and the other one was for Good Will Hunting. And Robin Williams looks at Ben Affleck and he's like, at Matt Damon, he's like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And then Matt Damon's like, yeah, I know it's not. It's like, no, it's not your fault that you were beaten up as a kid in orphan homes. It's not your fault in foster homes. It's not your fault. Keep saying it's not your fault. And at some point, Matt Damon just starts crying because he's And that scene of it's not your fault, there's a lot of people who, honestly, when they go through really horrible stuff, some of my friends or whatever, I'm like, you have to, it's very important that you understand it wasn't your fault. And when you understand that it wasn't your fault, you can actually live with it, right? And Mark never accepted that he took his brother to that cave. And this is Steven, which you just saw his origin of mental disorder being born. He's like, it's not your fault. And for me, that scene, it's just, there's not many scenes in Marvel in general that made me feel like that. And you know, and yeah, and this, I'm going to segue this to actually basically, for me, this show, also another thing, it was great because Moon Knight was a superhero I didn't know anything about, but I was so hyped because it was Oscar Isaac. And Annihilation, you guys have to watch this movie if you liked Moon Knight and Oscar Isaac. It's a movie with Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie, and Oscar Isaac. He almost has like no lines in that movie, but there's some scenes where he's looking at the camera, Oscar Isaac, powerful as hell. But so anyway, everything we just talked about, it's the concept of grief. And this concept of grief, it's not only at the core of Moon Knight, but it's also at the core of WandaVision. And you get to see how these superheroes deal with real life human emotions. And this is what it's very easy to do superhero movies where they're just pew 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 with crazy super effects. But when a superhero movie is able to give you a lesson about real life, It's amazing. Oh, one thing I wanted to finalize.
What?
So what happens when they're going through the doors? She tells them you have to make peace so that the scale balances out. And Mark has to face his shadow. And this is the concept this is why I love Persona. And Persona 5 and Persona 4, it's the
Oh,
whole,
Persona reference.
yes.
Nice.
Look, one of the things I love about Persona is also Persona taught me something about real life. In real life, in Persona, there are shadows. Everybody, when they go in the other alternate verse, they have the shadow of themselves. And if they don't face the shadow of themselves is the most horrible things about themselves. And if they don't face the shadow, they will never be able to go back to the real world and they'll die. And the whole point of Persona is accepting your shadows and looking at them and being like, yes, you're a part of me and I accept you. And this is exactly also what Moon Knight is about. It's accepting your shadows. And so, yeah, this whole concept of, for me, grief, which is at the core of WandaVision. And now we can actually segue into our review of the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2.
I have two things.
Oh, please.
Even Naruto has his own shadow. That's one thing. So I wonder if Naruto Shippuden came before Persona. I need to double check the dates. But another thing that I liked on episode 6 was representation, especially when the little girl said to Layla, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" I was like, "Yes, I am." I was like, "Oh, no, this is something that we don't have because for the longest time, for years, decades, every superhero, Marvel, DC, they've always been either in New York or the East Coast or in the West Coast. It's a big fucking planet,
Honestly,
and this
yeah.
next slowly they've been adding more and more representation. So now we have, I mean, so hopefully they'll expand more on that on season 2. But that's not only there's been adding more like LGBTQ representation, but now Egyptian representation. You mentioned about the Jewish and he being Jewish in the comics, and he is in the comics. So that's another very good thing. And Egyptian representation, that's something very good. But anyway, let's go back to One
Yeah,
Division and
No, no,
Doctor
no, no.
Strange.
It's a great point that you bring up, Felipe. Look, I stayed in Egypt for 6 months. I'm born and raised in Algeria. I was delighted to finally see Arabic representation, and not only that, you literally see every episode or most of them anyway are directed by Mohammed Bai something Bias. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But even the director was Arabic. So I was delighted to finally see some Arabic representation. And yeah, that scene. Maybe some people can find it cheesy, but well, me it reminded me of Wonder Woman, right? In Wonder Woman 1, when the little girl looks at Wonder Woman and she's amazed, right? And I think it's very important because a lot of children grow up with these movies, and seeing this diversity, it's going to actually give them a look at another culture. It's going to tell them, yeah, you can have a black superhero, you can have an Arab superhero, you can have a Jewish superhero. I think it's very important to have this type of representation.
So yeah, one last thing about before we move on to like
Oh, we
Doctor
have time. We
Strange.
still have 40 minutes.
No, but we might talk a lot about Doctor Strange, so I just want to kind of hurry about that. So
We
one thing
almost
that
have
I
nothing
found,
to talk about video games, by the way, so don't worry.
yeah,
Yeah, video games,
but we
nothing this week. Sorry.
It's like one
there's
tiny thing, that's it.
yeah, there's actually an irony, but you talked about acceptance, and there's a very ironic because Mark Spector being Jewish and being possessed by an Egyptian god, different kind of religions, different gods, pantheons, and maybe subconscious not thinking about that because he abandoned his religion because he doesn't believe in God anymore, or his God, but then he got possessed by a different God to do his bidding. So there's a bit of an irony there that
100%.
underlying may or may not be subconscious or like, oh, this is about acceptance. Like, if my God abandoned me, maybe I'll take yours. So that could be a different eye-opening perspective.
100%. All right, so I am putting on the screen. So as I said, for me actually, it is perfect that we just talk about all of this thing about grief, because oh my God, is my mouse gonna go there? Okay, there it is. Uh, Oh, I don't have the poster for Doctor Strange. It's okay. We don't have a graphic for this. So, Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. All three of us have seen it. Felipe, what did you think about it? And first, you were talking about multiverses and Loki and variants earlier. I'm sorry I cut you off. I really just wanted to finish talking about Moon Knight before jumping into this.
Spoke
So,
a little bit about
please, yeah.
Doctor Strange expanded a bit more on what Loki brought up, the concept of the multiverse, and Loki introduced the concept of nexus events, like I
Mm.
mentioned earlier about if we're doing something key and just splits into universe like this. But my question that I've commented on other videos and stuff, if a nexus event splits into two, like if I didn't do the podcast, I would have been something else, the universe splits. But we're basically twins, same age, same experience, and so on. And that's exactly what all so far, all Doctor Strangers are. They have the same age, same experience, but whatever nexus happened, they turn into Defender Stranger, Third Eye Stranger, whatever, whatever you want to name them, and then they split. But then we have now the now canon Spider-Man in the No Way Home, but they're not only different actors, but they're different generations. So how would that be explained with the concept of the Nexus event, or it isn't? But because they're all Peter Parker, this is not the same case of like Captain America or Captain Britain, where a different event calls the same character in name, but So this is something that I wonder, because if they do canonize, where did that happen? Was Peter Parker just born earlier, but it's supposed to be the same entity? Did his parents just decide, oh, let's make a baby in 5 years instead of like now? So how would that be explained to make sense? That's something that they haven't been clear because quickly they do introduce spoiler alert again for the nth
Everything is
time.
spoilers, guys.
Yeah, so this is something that they brought, right? Because we finally get the review of Reed Richards on Universe 838, and our Doctor Strange said that, weren't you guys active in the 60s? That comment, that means that in our universe they may or may not have existed, which I subscribe to the theory that they somehow escaped to the quantum realm or whatever, something similar. They just disappear, but they'll come back young.
Mm.
But we have to see how Papa Feige wants to explain all that to make it make sense. But again, it's an Nexus event. Like whether they went into the quantum realm or different, and they never age, or they just created some kind of technology to age slowly. But they're still technically the same kind of universes where something happened to make everything diverge, but they're all the same age. Whereas the Spider-Man, they're not. They're like different generations.
You do bring up some very good points. I just want to that is actually one big complaint or complaint that I saw about this movie that some people had was that it did not link anything to Loki. And you just brought up Loki and how the Nexus events and this didn't really make sense to you. But first, I do want to know, what did you think about the movie, Felipe? Did you like it?
The
Did you not
movie,
like it? What do you think?
the movie itself, personally, as someone who just enjoy movies and enjoys storytelling, I'm not going based on the comics because I never read, but
Of course.
by the spectacle and the movie itself, I found it was great. There are some things that, in hindsight, I do agree with certain reviewers, but as a movie, I still enjoyed overall. Like easily a 7, probably higher, but just like agreeing. But as a movie, as a more than casual comic book fan, I enjoy everything. The jump scares, everything was right. But personally, I do think there was a bit too much cheesy comments here and there when this movie is supposed to be the first horror movie. Even though people say like, oh, it's a Sammy Raimi touch. Sammy Raimi.
Sam Raimi, yeah.
And not
Sam
only Sammy
Raimi.
Raimi, but Sam Raimi, but at the same time, Marvel touch, right? They need to have like the too much humor. So it was like, I think it was a decent balance, but still too many cheesy comments.
So you think
I
there were
think
too
that's
many
part of the
cheesy lines in the movie? All right.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, could you name a couple out of curiosity? Or if you remember, if you don't, it's okay.
Like one of them is like based on the tension is one that goes to Kamertage to attack them. and Steven goes to negotiate with her, and he made a funny comment like, "Yes, it went just great." That's like a bit of sarcasm. I guess it goes with his character. He is a bit sarcastic, but it's a very tension moment. A lot of people died there, and he's still making a funny comment before the actual action happens, and then they just background forgettable nameless characters. So I think that was a bit unnecessary.
That's a fair point. How about you?
A serious.
Before we dive into details and everything, what did you think about it, Matt?
Well, let's see. I think the cheesiness is partly Sam Raimi because like his Evil Dead horror movies, they're horror, but they were also super cheesy and had comedy moments at the same time. So I'm like, all right, well, this is just Sam Raimi going like, I'm gonna have fun with this. I'll make like some jump scares, a little bit of horror stuff, but I'm just gonna do as cheesy as I can as well, and like put in my comedy. So like lines like Stephen Strange saying, "Oh yeah, it went perfect. Like negotiations went great." Like that is so Stephen Strange. Like he's just trying to avoid how bad of a situation that was right now by doing like sarcastic humor. He's like, yeah, I know things are looking like pure shit right now, so I'm just gonna say a snarky comment and act like nothing's wrong. But overall, I think it was. Do I like it more than the original Doctor Strange? I think I like it more than the original Doctor Strange. In terms of all MCU movies, I think it's like not middle, but like upper middle. Like it's not one of the best. There's far better MCU movies in my opinion. But it wasn't bad for sure. I'd say upper middle for sure in all of the MCU stuff. I do like how well, one thing jumping way at the end credits, the
Okay.
third eye that pops up on Stephen Strange's head. I'm like, okay, so this gives us the possibility that in the next solo Doctor Strange movie, whenever that is, because Benedict is taking a break from acting, whenever we see Doctor Strange again, is the third eye gonna actually be a big part of his storyline? Because they're saying everyone said, like, Supreme Strange, the evil Strange,
From the
he
web.
said, if you use the Darkhold, it will have consequences. And then we find out, oh yeah, he got corrupted a little bit, because now he has the third eye, like the evil Doctor Strange did. So will the next Doctor
Oh.
Strange movie, will the next Doctor Strange movie deal with him having to fight, like, this corruption that he has in him now? Like, oh, I gotta stay, like, good guy. I can't, like, indulge in this dark power that I have now. Like, that will be interesting if they deal with that. But that's jumping way at the end credits. Overall, I think it was a good movie.
All right.
That's good. I never.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
No, just I never read, so I'm not sure if he feels like he got corrupted too fast. He just used the Darkhold once, and just enough to like the way he corrupted him to manifest the eye right away. Although it still seems good enough,
Yeah.
but like if it's too fast, like not even like a line showing up, like just straight up opening a third eye feels a bit too rushed. But I guess they don't have
Okay.
time because in real life they are aging and movies take a long time. So I guess they have to do something. But they should have just like hinted like slightly opening, and then by the time we get in the third film, then they start fully opening.
Yeah, then
Because
we can
you
like
have
see
like
him fighting against the corruption in his head.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
them to just suddenly be like, okay, he's walking in the street, and then suddenly, ah!
Yeah.
And then eye pops open, and like, okay.
Um, okay, so me personally, I really, really, really liked it. While watching the movie, I was loving it because I'm going to get into why I was really loving it watching it. Me, there's one thing about movies is how do you feel a few days later about the movie? Does the movie stay with you? Do you still think about it? And that's why, like, Moon Knight, I loved it so much because it does stay. With Loki, it didn't stay as much. But for what you said, I really liked what you said about Sam Raimi and the cheesiness, because like some people, for example, complain that when Stephen Strange has this powerful speech to America Chavez when she's like on the tomb at
He's
the
in
end.
zombie form,
Yeah, in the
right?
zombie form. Do you know that there's a very similar scene in Evil Dead? So basically, if you
Yes.
didn't know, there was the Evil Dead trilogy, I think, which was made by Sam Raimi and has Bruce Campbell. And Bruce Campbell is the guy who has the hot dog stand.
Yeah,
And
slapping himself.
yeah, yeah. So the second I see it, and there were a lot of Evil Dead references. Like first Bruce Campbell, but also the book, the book that they were the book that's it's like the Necronomicon. Like the whole time I was like,
Well, in the movie, it's the Darkhold, right?
yeah, and while I was watching the movie, I was like, there's Bruce Campbell, and there's a book where all of the evil comes out of. This is exactly like the Necronomicon in Evil Dead. So anyway, me personally, I'm gonna go through what I really liked about this movie. First, um, I really liked I really like magic in movies first. So I thought that this movie had some incredible, like as a spectacle. I watched it in IMAX, and it was a very big spectacle for me. So first, when Wanda shows up and she's fighting Strange in the temple where they train all of the mages, and she's by
Sabotage.
herself. How is it called?
Camertage.
Hammertage?
Hammertage.
AA, so Camertage.
Oh, Camertage. Okay, that
Yeah.
scene when she's fighting in Camertage and everything, I thought I was like watching a video game come to life. It was just so epic. What I really like, I'm a big Scarlet Witch fan. So maybe I am a little biased towards her, but basically I really really love that, and basically the scene with the death of the Illuminati scene, I love that scene because they introduced the Illuminatis, and as you said, we get the Reed Richards reveal, and at least there was one reveal in this movie that I didn't know about from the trailer, and basically. When they revealed Reed Richards as John Krasinski, I was like, "What? I actually did not expect that." That was a great reveal. I really liked that there was the Inhuman boss. What was his name again?
Black Bolt.
Black Bolt. So yeah, and then you have Professor Xavier that shows up, and there's like the little X-Men song.
Yeah, the action song that plays, I was just like, oh my god!
The X-Men
I
have
think it should.
all. Sorry, yeah, like as I said, the X-Men have always been my favorite Marvel superheroes. I love the X-Men so much. So seeing that, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then you have the Fort, which is she's the equivalent of Captain Marvel. And then when they introduce them,
Yeah.
and then 5 minutes later, you see all of them die in horrible death and how she kills them. I love that scene. So it's really hard for me that some people didn't like this movie because first, Scarlet Witch is one of the most badass superhero in the Avengers. I never even thought we would see her like in the movies, and then once we see her in the movie, the fact that they respect how powerful she is. Let's keep in mind that like I didn't read that comic, but in the comics, she's so powerful that she literally removes the X-Men from Marvel for like almost years by saying no more mutants. At the she's being controlled by I don't know what, and I think it was I used to know but I forgot. So anyway, Scarlet Witch is so
Mephisto.
powerful. So yeah, I was gonna say Mephisto. She's being controlled by Mephisto. So basically, she's so powerful that at the end of this comic book event, she says no more mutant, and the X gene disappears from Earth. And I did read Avengers vs X-Men was the first a comic book Marvel comic book that I read event, or pretty much almost first, not the first one that I read ever, but anyways. And in that comic book, the mutants live on this island called Utopia because there's so few of them left. and the rest are being exterminated by sentinels and stuff like that. And the reason all of this happens is because of Scarlet Witch, because she's so freaking powerful. And every time we've seen her before this movie, I always was like, she's so much more powerful than this. And seeing her kill those Illuminatis like that, fucking, freaking like turning Reed Richard into SpaghettiOs, or like however, or like those like cheese, the cheese things. See how can and
removing Black Bolt's mouth, and making him scream and blow his own head up. I was like, damn, okay.
Exactly. It's like just the scene of the mages where she and that scene alone, just these two scenes. Wow. Okay, so it's really hard for me to understand why a lot of people didn't like this movie. I'll get to what my theory as to why, but also how Xavier is the only. Okay, Professor Xavier. When nobody else out of the Illuminati trusts Stephen Strange from the alternate universe because their Stephen Strange was a crazy maniac. Personally, I thought it was very, very much like the real Charles Xavier, that he's like, I think we can trust this one. You know, like because Charles Xavier, his character is that like he gives chances to people. He has a school because he wants like all of these mutants that have done terrible things. Like a lot of the kids that are in the X Mansion, they're mutants that some of them were in the Hellfire Club. Like some of them like were villains at some point. You know what I mean? So like Professor Xavier like he gives second chances to people, kind of like Dumbledore. You know what I mean? So anyway, and yeah. Anyway, so I really like that they got this aspect of Xavier, and I really like that out of all of the Illuminatis, he's the only one who almost beat her. Now it's arguable if in the comics he could have beaten her, but how he goes into her mind, he goes into the deepest part of her mind, and then like gets her outside, like finds her in the rubbles. And I think a reason
trying to free he was trying to free the alternate universe's Wanda from our Wanda taking over her brain. I was just like, this is cool.
You know what? I'll go even further. I love this movie. For real, I love this movie. Like, I don't understand all the hate. And, like, for example, Dan Murrell, which is a YouTuber that I watch, he didn't like this movie. And it's okay. You're allowed to have your opinion, because the reason why I like this movie is because I love seeing a comic book come to life. You know what I mean? And also, another thing. Oh yeah, and you were talking about representation and diversity, Felipe, and like America Chavez at the beginning. I was like, you're a little confused when you see her at the beginning running through the multiverse with this other ponytail Doctor Strange, we're gonna call him, and she's like doesn't trust the other Doctor Strange because of that. But at the end, when he I think he like controls her or something, when she's like let go of the knife. Basically, I forgot who tells him let go of the knife, because he's about, I don't remember exactly. Is he about to control America Chavez or something? Oh, is he about to
take? He was about to take her power, right? Like basically kill her.
He was about to take her.
He was about to take her power, kill her, so that the monster couldn't take it.
Yeah. So basically, and he's like, let go of the knife, and he lets her fight on her own because he knows that she has the power to be able to do that by herself. And the speech that he gives to her at the end, and honestly, I chuckled a bit when he's like, he's a zombie, and he's like, America. It's kind of like she kind of like, I don't know if it's on purpose or whatever. She kind of like represents America. He's like doing this very heartfelt speech. But me, what I really did like about this is that, as you said, representation, because a lot of Latina girls are gonna watch this movie, and they're teenagers or young girls or children. And the speech that he makes there, doesn't matter if he's a zombie or not, it is very powerful, because it's going to be inspiring for a lot of little girls, that are Latina little girls and everything, and it's going to help them like learn that yes, they can do it by themselves. They're, anyway. So I think that was also great. Like, doesn't matter if it's cheesy. I think it is important to have these scenes, because a lot of children watch this. You know what I mean? Anyway, and oh, okay, yeah,
I got one
please,
little thing
please.
about representation. I don't know if I can say because I'm the whitest guy
Of course
here.
you can.
I'm as white as like white bread, but like I'm whiter than white bread. But like I thought it was pretty cool that the movie starts and they're speaking Spanish. I was like,
That
that's
is.
cool in terms of representation. I'm like, the first two lines you hear from the whole movie is in Spanish.
That is true.
That's cool.
Let's be honest though, when you see when I saw the scene, it was great to see the scene representation with her lesbian parents, but it's so quick. I feel like if this movie comes out in China and other countries like Russia, are they gonna remove that scene? I feel like they put
It's
it like
not coming out in China.
really.
They already banned it.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope they do keep
And
that
now
scene.
there's other news that just came out where the Disney CEO was like, "Yeah, we'll be fine without our movies going into China.
Great.
Like we make enough money that we don't need China."
It's very rare that I say this, but props Disney. Anyway, like you know, as I often say, like Disney is very, very often an evil corporation. I'm not gonna get why, but you have to give them credit because the things that they make is just so freaking good. The things that they've been making, especially recently. Anyway, so and just to add, me one of the reasons why I also love this movie is because, and I know I the reason why I say I really, really, really like it because I know that with time I'm going to forget about this movie, but I'm not going to forget about the amazing scenes. I think Elizabeth Olsen is such an incredible actress. WandaVision, I would say, is my third favorite Marvel show, and as I said, there's this one line. Okay, one of the main complaints that I saw about this movie is that they don't, her evil turn is not developed well enough. A lot of people are like,
I agree.
okay,
I agree.
sure.
I agree.
Perfect. In this podcast, I want us to disagree with each other. I want this podcast to be about us informing each other and talking and everything. In my opinion, the whole WandaVision is explaining her evil turn. Like the thing about WandaVision is how he tells her that one of the famous line is, "What is grief if not love persevering?" That Vision tells Wanda that. So Wanda, literally, she basically you see her when she's hiding under the bed. She sees her parents die. Her whole city blows up. She loses everyone that she loves, her whole family. She only has her brother. Then she's experimented on, her and her brother. Then she loses that brother to Ultron. And then in Avengers Infinity War, she has to kill the love of her life. And then in WandaVision, she brings him back to life. And she has to see him die again. And she has a whole family in Wanda. She has to see that family. She has to lose that family again, and like she loses her fake children basically that she becomes obsessed with, and then you see her leave at the end. She lets them go, the whole city of whatever, and then you see her leave, and then at the end of the movie you see her with the book or whatever. She snaps. People snap sometimes, and we've had this. This has been they've been like showing her going through horrible shit after horrible shit after horrible shit since Age of Ultron. So people who say, "Oh, her evil turn is not is not validated," I think that you have a whole series validating it. Go ahead, Felipe.
If we have to analyze this a bit further,
Please.
and this is a bit of a hot, you can realize that her whole point of being angry, I mean, at least to the last one, I can agree that she did lose serious things, everything, her city, her parents, her brother. But when it comes to Vision, when what she's blaming the most of the recent events, WandaVision and the Doctor Strange, she's mad about a sentient adult toy. Vision wasn't even technically alive. When you think about it like this, the whole thing crumbles. It's ridiculous. Like it's just a sentient adult toy. You can just go get another one.
But
So
yeah,
what is the big deal? Maybe I can't relate,
You
of
can
course.
just get another Vision. I don't know about that, but
No, not a Vision per se, but like it's still a toy, you know. White Vision is still out there, but you know that's different. Like it's still not alive. but I guess I can sort of understand the idea of being attached to something that you really love, which is a concept that like sort of Buddhism or even Shaman King, they brought up this idea that something that you love so much, this is an exaggerated example, like this remote control here. Like I love this so much, this eventually is going to develop a soul of in its own. So that's something they brought up in Shaman King.
Yeah.
Or even
I
like
love this so much. Oh, I love
yeah,
this so much.
anything that you love so much develops a soul. So you
Yeah.
do become attached to certain things. So I guess that's what happened to Vision case, but it's still a thing, not a human being. So there are certain degrees, and in my perspective, my point of view, that I think you shouldn't be that saddened about it. You know, you lost a lot more serious thing than just a toy. So look
Yeah.
at this perspective. That's what I want to say because running out of time. We have like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes. Of,
No, 13 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, 13 minutes are okay.
Okay, just to push back on that, just a little bit, please, Felipe. First, your remote can't talk, and your remote didn't almost beat fucking Thanos. Sorry. No, no, okay. So the thing is, it is no. What you're saying is very true, Felipe. But I think WandaVision, the show, was to explain to you why she fell in love with him. It's because she lost everything in her life and she became a villain. People who say, "Oh, her villain turn is unjustified," did they forget she was a villain in Age of Ultron? She's been a villain. Like she literally started off as a villain. So anyway, she was working for Hydra. So anyway, the thing is that Vision, you see the moment she falls in love with him is when they have to spend that time together in the room. I forgot the reasons why exactly. Where he tells her what is grief if not love persevering, is because Vision is the only one who's able to literally make her feel better. Vision is the reason why she wasn't a villain anymore. Vision is the reason why she started helping the Avengers. Like after they beat her in Age of Ultron, she like, oh yeah, she loses her brother. So she loses everything. She's about to snap. Vision is the only reason why she didn't snap before. So losing the Vision twice, and of course, Felipe, of course none of us can relate to being in love with a sentient cyborg that used to be like the craziest, the smartest AI in the universe made by Tony Stark. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, it's just the fact that she did fall in love with him, and there's a lot of things that we don't see. Also, the time that they spend, after the, she didn't get blipped out. What happens to her during the bleep? During the blip?
Well, there's the time between Civil War and Infinity War where she's on the run with Vision, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah,
Because they were on Cap's side
Yeah.
instead of Iron Man's side. So they were on the run. Like, there's that whole period of time, I think it's like 2 or 3 years, that we don't know. Like, they had so much time to build up a relationship and we never see it. The next
True.
time we see them, they're in somewhere in Europe,
True.
right? Getting attacked by the aliens.
To be
So-
yeah. Go ahead.
We do need to listen to hear the right words at the right time. So even
Yeah.
though line, it could have been anybody saying the same exact words, and you'd feel at ease. So it's not just the fact that this super smart AI sentient toy said to her. It's just like hearing the lines at the right time,
And
the right moment in time.
Also, did you see how good Paul Bettany looked in that turtleneck at the end there? Like, come on, she's not a sentient beast. He's a super hot guy. Of course you fell in love with him. So, anyways, also that the last scene in WandaVision when she's saying goodbye to him and she's tucking her children in. The last episode of WandaVision is very, very emotional, and honestly, all of that, like, dude, it was either her snapping or her freaking killing herself. You know what I mean? Like, in the sense that, like, you can see how Vision was the only way she could cope with losing her brother. Her brother was all she had left. And people forget that, like, it was her twin brother too. Anyway, so a couple of last things before we finish. We have 9 minutes left. So basically, I also love this movie because Elizabeth Olsen is such an incredible actress, and the scene where they're in you said horror movie, the scene when she's like literally in those tunnels, and they're like, where'd she go? When the door closes, and then she shows up, and all you see is her red. I legit had a jump scare. I never had a jump scare in the Marvel
Yeah.
movie. The scene where she's like all in blood chasing everyone, guys. I love this movie because who would have thought in our craziest world that we would get a real good representation of the Scarlet Witch in as powerful as she is in the comics? I don't know. I just Scarlet Witch. I am biased though because she has always been one of the superheroes that I've always been the most interested and curious about. And yeah, I guess I got the movie that I wanted. But I wouldn't call this the movie Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I would have called it Scarlet Witch. That would have been a great title.
Two things. I mean, so concrete go. One, she's obviously not dead. No, if you don't see a body, she's not dead, and it's not Uncle Ben. And two, what is this movie building up to? What is the end game of this new phase? Is it like a galactic one or Secret Wars? I've seen two different divides because I always think that we were going to space and see Celestials, and the ultimate boss could have been Galactus, but now people are saying that it could be Secret Wars. I have no idea. It feels like two different disjointed things. Phase 4 so far has been all over the place. They're adding things that don't seem to be related to the bigger picture. What the hell is Moon Knight adding to whatever? What is
Yeah.
Phase 4 has that issue where the other phases, everything was leading up to Thanos, right? Like, they've built up Thanos for so much, they're like, okay, everything's leading up to the Avengers, and then the Avengers leads up to Thanos, and there we go. Phase 4, it's just like, there's nothing that big yet. Like, we know that Secret Wars will be a TV show. That's going to be a big thing. But I think the biggest thing for Phase 4 is Kang the Conqueror. Looks great. He's going to be the big guy.
He's gonna be in the
he's showing up in
Quantum.
he's showing up in Ant-Man 3, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's already been confirmed he's the big bad in Ant-Man 3. So I think that's where he first shows up, and then some next movie a few years later is going to be like he's going to be the next Thanos, where everything leads up to the final conflict with Kang.
True. So
the next movie show is probably Miss Marvel, and Hawkeye just built up on the ground, so to speak, on Earth. But there's nothing celestial stuff other than Galaxy 3, Thor 4. There's Cap 4 coming out, but
Miss Marvel is going to show up in the Captain Marvel sequel. The Marvels. She's confirmed to show up with Captain Marvel and there's somebody else in that movie.
I don't know who the third one is. Is it going to be America Chavez?
It might be America Chavez now.
I mean, it would make sense. So yeah, pretty much just to conclude, I mean, look, guys, honestly, I've seen and heard a lot of reviews about this movie, and I agree with a lot of them. But hey, I loved it, and I know it has a lot of flaws, but I had a great time in the theater. And you know me, I actually love Phase 4 for one reason. I was not a fan of a lot of Marvel movies in the previous phases because I really didn't like. Ant-Man 1 and 2, I didn't like them. I didn't like Captain Marvel. I didn't like, I mean, Thor 1 and Thor 2. I didn't like, I'd have to go back, but
Hulk movie wasn't great.
Yeah, for me though, I seeing this in IMAX, I wanted to go watch a popcorn movie with a lot of spectacles, and I definitely got what I wanted. And yeah, look, we don't all have to love the same things, guys. Like, you know, I'm going to throw a lot of oil on a fire that I should not reignite, but I freaking love The Last Jedi, okay, guys? I like The Last Jedi. I know there's a lot of flaws with it. There's a lot of flaws. I didn't like anything about Finn. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. There are many things.
You say that at the end of the podcast?
Yes. Hey,
really?
We'll talk about it another time. We'll talk about it another time. But my point is, I don't think we all have to like or love everything. I know I am totally biased why I love this movie, but hey, this is the Otaku Informers. We have informed you as much as we can. We will be back next week with more. Next week we will have the video game report. We have a third segment in this podcast that we did not have time to get to, which is the video game report. But if you guys wanted to hear about video games, episode 00 that is on the YouTube channel Otaku Informers in one word.
There.
50.
There's your video. There's your video game segment. Lego
Oh,
Horizon.
there.
There you go.
Uh,
Oh my god. So what are they called in Horizon?
Whole
Well,
next.
these are tall necks.
Tall
So these are
neck.
the one. These are like basically the towers, right? You climb up the tall neck, and then you get the new map for the area. I'm almost done building this thing.
That's
I just need to finish
amazing.
the whole thing.
A preview for next time. So
Yeah.
I guess this is
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
of
Yeah. Basically, yeah. So just wanted to say, if anybody wanted to hear us talk about video games, episode 0 on the channel has a lot of video game talk. It even has a Square Enix thumbnail. So otherwise, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much, Felipe. This has been Otaku Informers. You
and
have been.
stay informed.
Yeah.